Let us get to the message now. Again, the subject was Job, a back to the future father, in which I want to emphasize that Job was written many, many years ago. There are some things that happen that are very interesting and relevant to this coming Father's Day. Let me get into the message now. In my first part, really, there are four emphases that I want to highlight from the first 5 verses of the text. Come first now and see that even though written thousands of years ago, Job is an example of the kind of man who possessed the essential characteristic necessary for a successful father or fatherhood. Before any man enters into the responsibilities of the God given institution of marriage and childbearing, he needs to be a good man. He needs to have some character. He needs to be old enough. Children having children is never a good beginning. He was a godly man. He had character, and he had a job. He was a real and mature man. He was not an immature boy, inexperienced about life. I know it sometimes happens. We don't know when pregnancy is going to occur and all of that, but it is not good for children to have children. All right. He was a godly man who ran away from trouble, and it's good for our young men to stay out of trouble. When you do become a father, have a pretty good record. And most important, he had a job, something to offer a young child, some securities. And it also says that he was a farmer. He worked in agriculture. Even though he lived in the past, he was a good example for the future. That's my first point. He was a man, he was experienced, and if everything else, a good father ought to have a job. And let me get into my second point. Verse 2 in the first chapter implies that Job was married and understood marriage to mean having children and raising a family. It does not always happen that way. That means that pregnancies come and we get married when we really are not ready. Even though that may happen, we must remember that marriage means being married and having children. And if that didn't happen that way, God can still bless us. Let me go on. While it is unfortunate that some couples who want children but are not biologically able. I have someone in my family who wants children, but she can't have them. Uh, but listen to this. It is selfish and contrary to the purpose of marriage that there are those who have the means and are able to have children, but they don't want them. They don't want them. And unfortunately, this happens in the black family a lot of times. That they have the means to have children, they have a home and everything. And listen, they don't even want to adopt children. Most black children are adopted by white people or white parents, and that is unfortunate. And let me say something about children in Job's day. The joy of a Jewish marriage and home was having laughter in the family. Oh yes. Children brought something into a marriage. Uh, the absence of children was virtually felt as a curse by God and brought great sorrow. You read in the Bible of many women who went to God because they couldn't have children for their husband. And let me go further. For the Jewish man, the birth of a boy gave him longevity, meant his name, his lineage that went on, and a seed line into the future. As a matter of fact, listen to David in Psalms 127, verses 3 through 5, when he talks about children. He says, children are a gift from God. This is the Living Bible. They are his reward. Children born to a young man are like sharp arrows to defend him in his old age. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them, who has a lot of children. That man shall have the help he needs when arguing with his enemies. And also, let me add, in those days they were farmers. The more children, the more farm help you had. While it is no longer true that children are a benefit in farming and in protection from one's enemies in our day, there are many Christian testimonies that having children, rearing children properly, give life a meaning and satisfaction beyond comparison. In your old age, there's nothing like having grandchildren. They can keep you living longer. They can be a joy. Let me move on. I can remember during my childhood, fathers took pride in hearing their sons and daughters continued a legacy of great accomplishments through decades and future. Let me read that again. In my day, a father took pride in the good names their sons had in the neighborhood. And wherever they went, that so-and-so's boy, that so-and-so girls, and they always grow up to have a good job. They're doctors and they're lawyers. Having children can make a father proud. Let me move on. There was a time when just having the name of a father, a mother, opened doors for you. If you were looking for a job or you needed something, if you just mentioned that you was so-and-so's son, people just opened doors and gave you opportunities because they knew your family. Let me move on. Unfortunately, that type of value in a name, that father's name, that good father's name, that seems lost today, I hate to say. Many children today do not carry nor know the name of their fathers. They do not know on whose shoulders they stand. And there is no heritage line, I know my dad, he was a doctor. I know my aunts and uncles. Sometimes children are just growing up having no knowledge of the past. And listen to this. A nation or nation with these faults, children having no past and failing, uh, do not have a blessing of God. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, in which not even 10 righteous men could be found, it will self-destruct. The nation does not have children and fathers with reputations. That nation is doomed for destruction and trouble. Listen, God is still crying from Eden in the past. He said, Adam, where are you? And he also wants to know, Adam, what about your children? Let me go to my third point as we look forward to Father's Day. Come thirdly and see that Job was ahead of his time. He was a man in the past thinking about the future. He was ahead of his time in teaching his 7 sons to respect and to give their sisters a certain degree of equality that was only afforded men back in the Old Testament for thousands of years. Let me say that again. Women and children in the Old Testament, and especially women, were like second citizens. Read the 4th verse in that lesson of Job that I give. But listen, when these boys had their birthday, the brothers personally, oh my goodness, this happened, but listen, it's good for the future. The brothers personally invited their sisters to what we would today call a stag party. We call it for men only. These boys, during a time when it was a man's world, well, on their birthday, they invited their sister to come to the party all day. The birthday parties generally lasted for several days, included drinking wine and having joyous fun. This leads me to believe that Job let his children be children. Some fathers are so strict and so hard on their children that they lose their childhood. Job let them have that birthday party, and I will bet Job did not stay around. This leads me to believe that Job let his children be children. He was not overly stern and controlling as some fathers tend to be. Solomon the preacher said, childhood and youth are vanity. They are years in which a lot of things are done that's not that important, but it is just a part of childhood. As a matter of fact, let me read it, and this may go into a third sermon. Let me read what Solomon said about not robbing children of their childhood. And this is the 11th chapter of Ecclesiastes and verses 9. Listen what Solomon says about being young. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, and in the sight of thine eyes. Listen, but he say, in other words, have fun. He say, but know thou this, for these things God will bring thee into judgment. And listen, he says, therefore, remove sorrow from thy heart. Fathers, don't rob your children in their youth. Remove it from their heart when they're young. And put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. Job let them be children and enjoy their childhood. And that was expressed in that birthday party. Let me leave on with the message. Job did not want to rob his children of their childhood. He loved all of his children, the boys and the girls, and taught them to love each other. And let me say something about all over the world today. Molestation and equality against girls and women. In some Muslim countries, they don't even send them to school. Women have been and continue to be cruelly practiced around the world. Even the killing of females because they wanted boys and they end up with the girl. Let me read this again. Molestation and equality against girls and women have been and continue to be practiced around the world. Killing of female babies at birth, child marriages, marrying them off while they're 9 and 10 years old and older because they were not just that important, and even sterilization in some countries, and sex slaves in others. These things happen and they must be eradicated. And fathers ought to be responsible and concerned about as much about girls as they are about boys. I can imagine Job was waking up every morning and being the first to look to tell his 3 daughters how beautiful they were, regardless of how color. A good father ought to let that child know that they are important and how much they are loved, regardless of what the world may say. And let me close this third emphasis about Job and girls with a remarkable statement that was made when Job's wealth was restored. And it is found in Job 42:15. I can't read it now, but what it said is that the way Job treated his children and the way he raised them, and they were godly, and he prayed for them and blessed. But what it says, in the end, God, even though his children died, he lost his cattle. It said, in the end, God blessed him with more than what he had in the beginning. And so let us watch over our children. Let us respect our girls. Let them know they are loved, and they will be a blessing to us. And then I come now to my